Bill 120 amends Chapter 24, Article 8, and Chapter 25, Article 1, and Article 4, Division 5 of the Hawaiʻi County Code 1983, 2016 edition as amended, relating to providing, maintaining, and dedicating parking spaces and charging stations for electric vehicles. Requires all newly constructed places of public accommodation with at least 50 parking spaces to install electric vehicle chargers under a tiered schedule that increases the required amount of electric vehicle chargers every 2 years through 2029. Introduced by Ms. Kimball. Referred to the Planning Director and Planning Commissions, February 22, 2022. Please note there is a motion by Ms. Kimball, seconded by Mr. Inaba, to recommend passage of Bill 120 on first reading.
You'll see that we've removed actively charging and have replaced it with the wording plugged into with the intent to charge. This is because we felt the idea of enforcing active charging would be very difficult to actually do. And so what you'll see later is that we've made an amendment that allows the vendors to actually charge a lingering fee. And so we feel like that will be a better control for people parking in these spaces and occupying it beyond the state where they're actually charging their vehicle, and then the county has no responsibility for having to do any enforcement on that.
I'm thinking about my own business that I had before COVID, and it was a shared parking lot that had more than 50 spots, and it's owned by someone or an entity, but you have multiple lessees who utilize the space. In that case, being more than 50 stalls, who's responsible for the installation of the charging station or charging spots?
Under this legislation, it's the owner. So, and whether or not that is passed off to the lessees in some way, shape, or form, that's up to the relationship between the owner and the lessees. But it would not actually be triggered unless the owner went in for plan approval at the site.
One thing about the 2025 date, I'm good keeping it there. I know you want to accelerate, but I'm also very cognizant of what's happening on the global level and supply chain issues and just the cost of everything being really exorbitant at this moment. And so understand that fiscal pressure that folks are under, and so I'm comfortable with leaving this date in. I'm really curious about D, where we talk about actively maintaining these EV chargers. So is that the responsibility of the property owner? And if so, how are we making sure that this is actually happening? Because there are a number of situations where I know constituents are trying to plug in, but they're plugging in, but they're not being able to charge because the chargers are not in good working order. So
yes,
who's
like the four outside the building here, Director Pawsey. Excellent question. And, one of the reasons that this is where it is and went through the Planning Commission is because all the enforcement of any of the clauses falls under the enforcement provisions of Chapter 25. And so what you're looking at here is it's going to be a complaint-driven process where someone will file a complaint with the Planning Department, and then it'll be up to them to contact the owner, who in this case would be responsible for maintaining it and actively maintaining.
This is one area of the bill that we kind of been speaking to enforcement, and it's an area we're just going to have to, when we receive complaints, go out and follow up. As of now, I don't think we've ever received a complaint.
Okay.
So everything's been going well. I know people will call just to confirm that they have the correct amount of EV chargers at Home Depot or Target or Walmart. But other than not in good working order, I mean, we all know of one that people joke about all the time, but we won't mention that one. But we'll just take them as they come.
Okay. Deputy, do you feel you have sufficient capacity within the department?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Just want to make sure. Christian, do you have anything else to add?
I was just going to follow up. Because this is not currently in our code, we have no authority to enforce this under our enforcement mechanism. So that's kind of the idea. I suspect since it's in state law, if there is any violation of that, then they could deal with it that way.
A motion on the floor to amend Bill 120 with the contents of the Communication 608.48. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed? Mr. Clerk, we have 6 ayes with Mr. Chung, Ms. Villegas, and Ms. David excused. So we have a motion to forward Bill 120 as amended with the contents of Communication 608.48 to the council with a favorable recommendation. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, Mr. Clerk, we have 6 ayes with Mr. Chung, Ms. Villegas, and Ms. David excused, which brings us to the end of our agenda.